Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 6th overall spot using FantasyPros Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex spots, a kicker defense, and 5 bench spots. We're going to be drafting up against the average draft positions from ESPN, NFL, and Sleeper. But before we can get on into this mock draft, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. And if you would like to check out my rankings and tiers, they are available on Patreon. Link in the video description. So let's get into this mock draft. So the difference between a 10-team league and a 12-team league to me is that the quarterback and tight end position is more important in a 10-team league compared to a 12-team league. Why is that? In a 10-team league, more than likely a majority of the teams are going to be loaded to the gills because it is easier to build better teams with the less amount of teams in your league. Even the league taco, the league idiot, right? The jester over there, that's just the clown of your league. Even him in a 10-team league or her might be able to just somehow construct a great team because it's easier in a 10-team league. So how do you get the advantage? By having that elite quarterback or that elite tight end, or potentially even having both. Now, am I going to go ahead here and just say I need to get that elite quarterback or that elite tight end? No, I play the draft by ear, but it is important to understand that that is a great way to get the leg up on your league mates. Now, from the 106, by the time things swing back at the 205, taking a quarterback or a tight end to me is a reach. So we'd have to hope that one of those elite guys falls back to us at the 306 for us to even consider it. It's a lot easier from the 101 or the 102 to take McCaffrey, Lamb, Tyreek, swing back around and take your Travis Kelce or your Sam Laporta. It's just way easier of a pill to swallow because that's actually around where the players go. Whereas I feel as though you are reaching at the 205. So draft begins McCaffrey, Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Breece Hall. CeeDee Lamb still dealing with the contract dispute. I think Jerry Jones ends up giving him a fat bag, so I'm not too worried. McCaffrey dealing with an injury. He's also dealing with the Madden curse. So maybe we should worry a little bit more, but I'm not panicking just yet. Jahmyr Gibbs ended up getting hurt at practice last night. We currently do not know the severity of the hamstring injury. Once we know, I'll be talking about it more. As of right now, I would just kind of avoid him unless he started falling to a crazy rate to where I would just be willing to take on that risk. Now, normally at the 106, we would take the best wide receiver available, and in my opinion, that is Amon-Ra St. Brown. But this time, I want to go ahead and do things a little bit different. I talk about this in all the mock draft videos. Don't draft the same way every single time. If you know going into your draft, hey, I'm at the 106 in a 10-team league, practice by drafting a running back first and then a wide receiver the second time with that same pick, right? Or do triple running back to start, then triple wide receiver to start, drafted an earlier quarterback, an earlier tight end, so that you're prepared for when things do not go the exact same way as your mock drafts. You will be able to pivot. Plus, the videos wouldn't be interesting at all if I did the same thing every time. Like, oh, the 106, pick Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oh, in the second round, my favorite receiver in that range, Marvin Harrison Jr. is back there. Let's take him, right? And it's the same exact thing every single time. No one would care. So we're going to go ahead and take Bijan Robinson here. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Bijan Robinson was the #1 overall pick in fantasy football drafts come next season. Bijan Robinson has all of the skills to pay the bills. Last season was obviously a letdown of large magnitude because the coaching situation there, the quarterback situation there, it was just a recipe not of sugar, spice, and everything nice like the Powerpuff Girls. It was a recipe for disaster. But I think this season with Kirk Cousins as the quarterback with a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new system, things are going to be a lot better for Bijan Robinson. Plus, this guy is an amazing pass catcher, which gives him an even further bump up in PPR. And if Christian McCaffrey continues to miss time, then Bijan might end up as my running back #1 in my rankings. Again, available on Patreon. After Bijan, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs not really falling too much. I see that he's typically the number 4 running back off of the board. This time he was the running back number 6, but that is not a great enough fall like Humpty Dumpty off the wall to where I feel as though I would need to draft him because of the injury. Again, if we figure out tomorrow and the next couple of days, everything's going to be fine in like a week or two, then I won't be as worried. But right now I'm worried a little bit. It's not full on panic attack, but I am still a little bit worried. So we got Bijan. Best running backs available would be ETN, Kyron Williams, Devon Achane, Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry. Based upon how drafts go, the running backs have been starting to get steamed a little bit more as more and more of the people that weren't drafting like a month ago start drafting, right? Because it's basically fantasy football season in the middle of August. Everyone's hopping back on the bandwagon, so the running backs are starting to move up. But I still think I'll be able to get a competent running back in the 3rd round that I like. So I'm going to go ahead and go wide receiver, and I'm going Marvin Harrison Jr. I absolutely love the tape that this guy put out there. It's like the Kim Kardashian tape. It's beautiful. Shout out to Ray J. Marvin Harrison Jr. is amazing. Kyler Murray is an incredibly underrated quarterback. He's coming now over a year removed from the ACL injury. I think he is going to look like his old self. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the clear number 1 wide receiver on this team. He might be a top five target at the wide receiver position in the NFL. I am infatuated with the upside that Marvin Harrison Jr. possesses. And I think in his rookie year, he could easily finish as a top 5 wide receiver after Marvin Harrison Jr., Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, Devontae Adams, Drizzy Drake London, Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Travis Etienne, back-to-back Travises, Chris Olave, and Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk still hasn't been traded. Is he going to get traded? Is he staying? It seems like every single day you read something and then 3 hours later another report comes out that tells you the exact opposite thing, and then it reverts to what you thought initially, and it's like basically just a complete and utter mindfuck right now. Trying to read too much into it will hurt your brain. I'm not going to read too much into it as of right now. Now, right now, in my rankings that you guys can get on Patreon, I have Josh Allen ranked as my quarterback 1, but I'm starting to have some type of reservations about that because Josh Allen heavily benefited last year from scoring so many rushing touchdowns. He scored 15 rushing touchdowns last season. Could he realistically score 15 rushing touchdowns again? Yeah, but do I think that is the most likely scenario? No. So I think I'm going to end up moving Jalen Hurts up to the quarterback number 1, but I also think there's a chance that a Lamar Jackson, even Mahomes, ends up falling back to me in the next round. So I don't feel like I have to reach and take one of them here, even though technically wouldn't be a reach based upon ADP. At tight end, I love Trey McBride. I have been such a big fan of Trey McBride ever since last season when we got him up off the waiver wire. But we already have Marvin Harrison Jr., so I don't know if you'd even want to double dip on the Arizona Cardinals this early. Plus, Trey McBride, sometimes you can get him sometimes in the 5th round of a 12-team league. So at pick 26 would certainly be a reach. So we're going to go ahead here and double tap the running back position. We're going to go ahead and get Devon Achane, running back of the Miami Dolphins. Now on paper, is Achane the safest running back available? No. Jacobs would be safer in my opinion, for sure. But the upside here for both these guys is significant, but I think Achane could really be the running back 1 in fantasy football. Now, I understand Mostert is there, and they're going to use Mostert, and I understand that Achane had some crazy efficiency last year, which heavily boosted him up, but why can't he be slightly less efficient, getting more touches, scoring more touchdowns, being more valuable? Raheem Mostert scored 21 fucking touchdowns in this offense. So if we give more touches to Achane, he could potentially score 15, 18 plus touchdowns. This is an offense that I want to be attached to. I want to be attached to elite offenses. Devon Achane is on one of the best offenses in the National Football League, and I am going to pick him here because I really do think that him and Bijan could literally be the top 2 running backs in fantasy football at the end of the year. The best running back tandem in your league could be Bijan and Achane. Now, obviously, things could go brutally wrong for Achane, right? Mostert's more involved than we would like. Maybe he doesn't find the touchdowns, the efficiency dips, and everything goes wrong. But to me, in the 3rd round, where I can get a running back that I can legitimately easily see Close my eyes, I can easily envision him being the running back 1. I'm going to draft him. If you wanted to be safe, you could have went with Josh Jacobs there, who I love as well. After Achane, Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, Michael Pittman Jr., Pat Mahomes, Mike Evans, Jalen Hurts, Rashad with 2 A's, White, and Jalen waddled away, waddle, till the very next day. So since we invested heavily early on at the running back position, now we are going to fade away like a shot from Michael Jordan on the running back position. Why do we do that? Because in a full PPR league, I would prefer to start the wide receivers going in the running back dead zone at my flex over those dead zone running backs. So we're going to stay away from the running backs until later, and we're going to hope that Robinson and Achane are the running backs of our dreams, and they end up really helping us out. So now we are stuck in a bit of a predicament here, and these are the decisions that I make up in my mind. I talk through them in the videos. In my head, I would just make the decision, but I speak it out to you guys so you guys can understand what I'm thinking. I don't just randomly pick someone. So for me, it would be between Nico Collins, Cooper Kupp, and DJ Moore at this pick, or Lamar Jackson. Because while I technically on paper would like to get my wide receiver 2 in Nico Collins, Lamar Jackson is speaking to me like the devil versus the angel on my shoulder. The angel's telling me, Nick, get your boy Nico Collins. The devil's telling me, get Lamar Jackson, because I have talked so much. I wax poetically about getting that elite quarterback. But I could also get Kyler later to stack with Marvin Harrison. So ultimately, I'm going to lean the direction of the wide receiver. We're going to go Nico Collins here. Nico Collins to many is risky. Why is he risky? Because there are so many wide receivers on the Texans. Diggs, Collins, Tank Dell. Nico Collins to me is the clear number 1 here. The efficiency last year was off of the charts, one of the most efficient wide receivers in the NFL, and I think we have even more to see. I think CJ Stroud could be even better than what we saw last season. This can be an offense that is raining in so many points week in and week out. I get that he might not be as consistent as we would like, but he's coming off the board in the 4th round with 20-plus point upside in any given week, and at pick 35 in the 4th round, I am willing to take that. I think Cooper Kupp would be a little bit more of a layup, even though some people are scared of him as well. Even though every single report out of camp for the Rams is that Cooper Kupp looks like his old self, and you have to match that with the fact that Puka Nacua is banged up. Seems like a recipe for great success, shout out Borat, for Cooper Kupp, but man, I can't. I just like Nico Collins too much. I'm being honest with you guys. I talked up Nico Collins entering into last season. If you drafted him, you were incredibly happy. You're like, wow, Nick, you're a genius. And guess what? People are overthinking him again. Now he's in the 4th round, and I'm taking him. After Nico Collins, James Cook, Joe Mixon, Lamar Jackson, Kenneth Walker III, Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, Alvin Kamara, DJ Moore, and Devontae Smith. I figured more than likely we wouldn't be able to get Lamar Jackson at that spot. Now, if instead of Marvin Harrison Jr., I were to have drafted Derrick Henry, and then in the 3rd round, we took Michael Pittman, for example, right here, I would be doing the Irish jig to draft Trey McBride. While I do think the Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be significantly better than we all think they will be, I'm more likely to draft 2 players on a team that I believe to be elite, right? If I ended up with Nico Collins and Joe Mixon, right, on an offense I think is top 5 potential, I'm not going to be shaking in my boots. Whereas with McBride and Harrison, relying on both of them week in and week out feels a little bit more risky, when I feel as though I might be able to wait and get Mark Andrews in the next round and not have to pay the price here for Trey McBride. Plus, Trey McBride could also fall into the next round, but I don't think that will be as likely. If you wanted a quarterback here, Anthony Richardson would be the pick. I could also get Kyler in potentially the 7th round. So I think we're going to wait here on quarterback, because there's a pretty easy way to just close your eyes and envision, hey, Kyler outscores Anthony Richardson. They're similar type of guys. Obviously, Anthony Richardson has this huge arm, and he's a little bit younger. But Anthony Richardson got hurt last year. Kyler, I could really, like, I love Anthony Richardson, but I could talk myself into Kyler outscoring him. So we're going to go wide receiver here, and we're going to go with Malik Neighbors. Now, some people say, Nick, drafting Malik Neighbors is burning a pick because you're drafting a wide receiver on the Giants, and the Giants suck donkey cock, this, that, and the other thing. Now, Malik Neighbors is also currently dealing with an injury. He injured his foot in practice, but everything that I've read, DeBoll doesn't seem too concerned. Brian Daboll basically said that he's a little bit sore. He'll be fine. Now, again, it's just like with any of these guys that are hurt. If in 2 weeks we learn, hey, Malik Neighbors is actually really messed up, that's like, okay, maybe I'll start to worry, right? Maybe I'll start to panic, and I will, because you should. But right now, I'm not too worried. The coaches don't seem worried. No one seems worried. The fantasy doctors on Twitter don't seem worried. I asked Johnny Sins when he was wearing his doctor outfit, are you concerned? He said, nah. Manuel Ferreira, none of those guys were worried. So Malik Neighbors here, I'm taking him. I'm not worried about bye weeks at all. The only time you should be worried about a bye week is if you're drafting 2 quarterbacks or 2 tight ends. Don't draft them on the same bye weeks. After Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, CJ Stroud, Aaron Jones, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Amari Cooper, Tank Dell, and Trey McBride. So we won't be able to get Mark Andrews here. So I think we're just going to get Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is a guy that I could see going anywhere from pick 40 to pick 60 in drafts. And the quarterback position is very hard to talk about in mock drafts because it so heavily depends on your league. And we talk about this a lot in the mock drafts. In some of your guys' leagues, Mahomes or Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, they might go in the first round. They might go in the early second round. There are going to be drafts where none go in the first 2 rounds. There's a bit of a run in the 3rd round. Then there's a bit of a lull. There's some where people are just hands up, backing up away from the quarterback position. Same thing with tight ends, right? It's very different per draft. You can look at ADP. It can give you a good idea of where they should go. But again, tight ends and quarterbacks typically change per league very heavily. The best way to figure out where quarterbacks are going to go is by just going back in your league history, going into the history if you played in the league before and looking, hey, do I have a league mate that drafts quarterbacks super highly? And you could see, like, oh, over the last 3 years, they draft a quarterback always in the 2nd round. And, oh, this guy also does the same thing, right? And then you can kind of figure things out that way. But that's just an elite strategy. I kind of know all my friends that I'm in leagues with, which one of these guys is, like, if they had a hole in their head, they would be screwed, right? Whereas me, I could have 3 holes in my head during the draft, and I'd be A-okay, right? But I hope you get what I mean. Like, there's people that draft fucking crazy. My dad's friend, Jarrell, my friend who was in our fantasy football league, he sadly passed away 2 years ago, but he would always do crazy shit. He'd call it shaking up the draft, and I always thought that was funny what he would do. So now we are back up on the board here, and I just can't pass up on Anthony Richardson. Again, maybe people will be like, Nick, this lineup's too risky. I don't really think it's all that risky. I think Anthony Richardson, like, dude, the upside's quarterback one. It really is. The weapons there are solid for him. And we saw it when he was healthy. This guy could be a top 3 quarterback easily, and quarterback 1 definitely as well. After Anthony Richardson, George Kittle, Timbers, Dalton Kincaid, Evan Ingram, Kyler Murray, George Pickens, James Conner, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, and Joe Shiesty. I was really hoping that maybe we could get Kincaid, but we did get Kyle Pitts to fall our way. I think by the time things come back at the wide receiver position, I'll be able to get Jaden Reed, who I really like. If I don't take Kyle Pitts, I could get Jake Ferguson later, who I like as well. That's also on the top of my mind. And I think I'll probably do that because I do think, again, when you're investing in multiple players and you're starting lineup on the same team, you'd prefer it to be like the Dolphins or the Chiefs or something, not necessarily the Falcons, even though I think the Falcons are going to surprise a lot of people. Especially the people that think like Kyle Pitts, like, oh my God, Kyle Pitts fucked me in the ass last year in fantasy. Oh my God, he also did it 2 and 3 years ago. The guys basically sucked every year outside of his rookie year, but I'm not too worried about that. But I love Jake Ferguson, and you can get him a little bit later. So we're going to go wide receiver here. Maybe, just maybe, Kyle Pitts falls back to us. Because again, there are people that are scared to death. Petrified. They were afraid. They were petrified to draft Kyle Pitts. So he may be able to fall. At wide receiver here, there are some more worries about Christian Kirk because he wasn't really used in the 2 wide receiver sets in preseason, but I also don't believe that preseason week 1 is like this gospel that you need to oogle and ogle over. Sure, you can look at it, you could take your points from it, but I'm not really too worried about Christian Kirk like some people might be. We're going to go ahead and take Christian Kirk here. This is a guy that a couple years ago was a league winner. This is a guy that is clearly the number one on the Jaguars. I know a lot of people like Brian Thomas Jr., and I'm not here to say that that guy's like some certified scrub. Great talent out of LSU, but they've got Gabe Davis, who, again, like, what has that guy really done except for had like 3 solid games? One of them just so happened to be in the biggest stage up against the Chiefs in a game that they lost, typical Bills in the playoffs. But Christian Kirk here, I just have to do it again. If we keep coming back in these preseason games and he's not getting used in 2 wide receiver sets, then yeah, it's time to panic. But after 1 game, I'm not worrying all that much. Our team right now, we got Anthony Richardson, we've got Brian Robinson, Devon Achane, Marvin Harrison, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, and Christian Kirk. Looking at the best players available here, Kyle Pitts just has to be the pick here. I understand that in some leagues he's not going to be available at pick 75, and if he wasn't, I probably would have just taken Jaden Riley-Reed. But if he was available, I would literally drag my nutsack through glass in order to get Kyle Pitts. I was basically avoiding him every single year except for last year when I caught the Kyle Pitts fever, like the Bieber fever. I was a Kyle Pitts believer, and it didn't work. But again, you can really blame the quarterback situation, and it's like, even though I already have Brian Robinson, like, I'm getting him at a discount now. Like, I feel like this is discounted at pick 75. Like, it doesn't feel like I reached up for him. So I'm going to go ahead and take him here. Even though some people, again, I outlined it. Certain scenarios, yeah, like, if I'm taking Kyle Pitts ahead of ADP, I think it would be stupid, right? I think it would be stupid to reach on him when I already have Brian Robinson. But I'm fine doing it here in the 8th round. That will fill out our whole lineup. Now, understand that if you are new to fantasy football, you don't have to fill out your whole lineup. Right? I could sit here and take fucking 8 running backs and 8 more receivers, even though we don't have enough bench spots for that, right? Before I take my tight end. You don't need to fill out the lineup. But I'm going Kyle Pitts. Dude, it feels like everyone, it's like that meme. Everyone has seen that meme of, you've ever gambled, right? Where it's like 99% of gamblers quit before hitting big, right? And it's the guy that's mining, fucking Minecraft style, and he's about to hit all the diamonds, but he turns around, right? Like, you're quitting right before you could hit the diamonds, right? So everyone's going to quit out before they can get the diamonds, and Kyle Pitts, and I believe he's going to shine bright like a diamond this year in Atlanta. Does it feel kind of icky Vicky, Timmy Turner style to have to draft 2 Falcons? Kind of, yeah, but it's fine. It could be a lot worse. And they're saying we reached, but honestly, in the 8th round, I don't think that's a reach at all. I think we might have gotten deal, to be completely honest with you. After Kyle Pitts, Raheem Mostert, Dak Prescott, Zamir White, Tony Pollard, Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet, Najee Harris, 49ers, Browns, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, and the Bears defense. So I think we're just going to go wide receiver here. Pretty clearly, because like Robinson and Achane are going to be those hammer pieces. I can understand why maybe Neighbors being banged up is a concern. Kirk, there's concerns there. So we want to add more wide receivers. Plus, we're trying to play 4 wide receivers every single week. So we need to make sure that we have enough guys if injuries happen to keep playing 4. We're going to go wide receiver here, and Jaden Reed is the obvious pick here. Jaden Reed is another guy that a lot of people are going to galaxy brain themselves away with, because there's going to be a lot of wide receivers being used by the Packers, right? You could be seeing every single week 5 different wide receivers with a catch, but Jaden Reed in his rookie year was downright incredible. He earned targets easily, and I think he's going to do it again. I think he could be a touchdown hog, and while I'm a big fan of Christian Watson and his ADP, Christian Watson hasn't been able to stay healthy, and that's definitely a concern, where that has not been a concern for Jaden Riley-Reed yet in his career. After Jaylen Warren, Jordan Addison, DeAndre Hopkins, Baltimore Ravens, Christian Watson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Xavier Worthy, and Javonte Williams. Javonte going 1 pick before us does hurt like a butt cheek on a stick, but we will go running back here and get our guy Tyjae Spears. Now, Tyjae Spears is a guy that I could see being a late end of season type of guy that ends up being really helpful. Like, if Tony Pollard goes down, Tyjae Spears is a straight up league winner. But I also think that Tyjae Spears is good enough to work ahead of Tony Pollard. Tyjae Spears had some solid performances last season with Derrick Henry being the starting running back on the team. Much easier competition to beat out this season when you compare Derrick Henry to Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, though, did have some solid burst in the preseason. He looked like kind of the 2022 version of Tony Pollard. But I still think Tajay Spears is good enough to maybe steal some pass catching opportunities. And again, we don't need him in my lineup all the time. So I feel like taking the upside shot is a little bit smarter than taking like the layup, right? We know what Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be. There's some competition for him with Austin Eckler. Like, why not take the higher upside shot? Jonathan Brooks also would have been a good pick there. I didn't even see him available, if I'm being blatantly honest with you. Might have wanted to switch him because Jonathan Brooks I could also see being a league winner and being the number one back a couple of weeks into the season after he returns from his injury. After Tajay Spears, Hollywood Brown, Jonathan Brooks, Keon Coleman, Austin Eckler, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Gus Edwards, Ladd McConkey, Trey Benson, and Jameson Williams. So we're back up on the wide receiver train here. No need to draft a tight end or a quarterback because commit to Pitts when you commit to Richardson. Hopefully they don't get hurt, knock on wood. So the only time you're ever going to play someone above them when you draft them with that high of draft capital is when they're on bye or when they're hurt. So if I draft, for instance, if I take Richardson and then I take Jared Goff, right? Some weeks I might be like, oh, Jared Goff's a little bit safer. And then I play Jared Goff and I end up shooting myself in the foot, right? And then it basically just puts you into a mind game with yourself. Every Sunday you wake up, holy shit, who should I start? Who should I start? And it's like mental warfare against yourself. This used to happen to me all the time. I would draft 2 quarterbacks and it wouldn't go well. I remember one time, sophomore year of college, we were drinking at my friend's dorm room and I drank way too much. Shout out to whatever drink I was drinking that night. And I was throwing up and I was in the bathroom and my friends have a video and I'm like laying next to the toilet and you can't see me in the video because the door's closed. I'm just saying, Phillip Rivers or Kirk Cousins. No, it's Phillip Rivers or Matthew Stafford. Phillip Rivers or Matthew Stafford, just drunkenly overthinking things. This is the problem. Like when I drink, I just start thinking about football. I also drunkenly predicted my rookie year, my freshman year, that Cooper Kupp was going to be elite. And guess what, buddy? I was right. All my friends will attest to that, even though I wasn't making videos back then. I started making videos my junior year of college, or was it my sophomore year? I don't remember. It was a long time ago, and I have CTE. Shout out Antonio Brown. So we're going to go wide receiver here again. Wide receivers are the clear plan here. Actually, maybe not, though, because while I do like Cortland Sutton, I kind of feel like I should just go running back before it starts to get really bad. So I want to get another high upside running back shot in Chase Brown, who's another type of guy that could replace our flexes. And if something was to happen here, Chase Brown becoming the number 1 back in Cincinnati would pay off huge dividends in the 11th round. I'll tell you what. So after Chase Brown, Brian Robinson, Brian Thomas Jr., Cortland Sutton, Ezekiel Elliott, Tyler Lockett, Jake Ferguson, Brock Bowers, and David Njoku. Jake Ferguson in the 12th round. I would have busted one in my pants if I was able to get that. Now we're going to go ahead and go for... Normally, I don't take Curtis Samuel because I think Curtis Samuel is essentially fool's gold. He does the same thing every year, which is he has like 3 or 4 really, really good games. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I drafted Curtis Samuel. But he has that good game on your bench. And then you go to play him and then he just sucks complete and utter dick, right? So we look at this, week 4. So you probably would never have played him week 4, right? He goes up against the Eagles, he smacks them. Then I'm like, okay, you know what? We'll try him against the Bears. He smacks the Bears. Then he goes well against the Falcons. And then he falls off the edge of the earth and he pops off for 19 points up against Dallas. And you're like, maybe I'll start him up against the Dolphins. The defense is looking pretty good, but maybe I could see it. And then he gets 10 points and then 21, and then he's a disaster. Maybe it changes in Buffalo, but with how much the team really seems, and Josh Allen seems to really like Ullman, makes me worry a little bit. I keep taking Josh Dobbs, so I don't want to take the same guy every time. So this time we'll go ahead and take Jacoby Myers because while he is the number 2 on a run-heavy offense in Vegas, this is a guy that has been putting up numbers his whole career and was a pretty reliable guy last year. If the consistency comes even more, second year with Aiden O'Connell / Gardner Minshew, the second iteration of this offense, I think that you might end up being very, very happy with Jacoby Myers. And now we're going to go ahead and select our last player here. And we're going to go ahead and let's take Josh Downs. Now he is banged up, actually. No timetable for return, so I guess you could go A.D. Mitchell. Again, I guess those aren't really reaches because this is literally our last pick before we get our kicker and our defense, so it doesn't really matter if we reach. We could go Jalen Polk, who I like a lot. But we're going to get cute and we're going to take a Donnie Mitchell with Josh Downs hurt. Seems like he has that clear number 2 target role behind Michael Pittman Jr. We're getting the stack equity of Richardson to a Donnie Mitchell. And guess what? If it doesn't work, you can drop him like it's hot because you drafted him in the 13th round of a 10-team league. You don't need to be tied. You're not tied to any of these guys. Early on, sure. Like if Marvin Harrison Jr. sucks ass, that's going to hurt really bad. But not going to hurt to cut bait on any of these guys that you draft later. So then we're going to go ahead and draft our kicker and our defense. First, we're going to go kicker, and we're going to go ahead and select Brandon Aubrey of the Cowboys. And then we're going to go ahead and draft a defense. Now, the way you want to draft a defense in fantasy football is by drafting a defense that's going up against a not-so-hot offense in week number 1. The reason why you do that is because when you draft a defense, the best defense sometimes doesn't have the best matchup. They have tough matchups, and you want to just draft the defense that you can cycle in and out every single week. One of my favorite targets is the Steelers, who are going up against the Falcons. Since we have so many Falcons, drafting the Steelers, if they were available, up against 2 guys that are going to be starting my lineup week 1, I am not going to do that. So you want to find a defense playing up against a not-so-hot opponent in week number 1. And then guess what? If they have a hard week 2 opponent, you cycle them in and out. I'm going to be posting videos every single week on which defenses to pick up. It's called Defenses to Stream. Comes out every single Monday. And there will also be a defenses to draft video coming out probably within the next 10 days. We're going to go Bears. We wanted to go Bears, actually, but they've been taken already. So we're going to go Bills up against the Cardinals. Obviously, we have Harrison, but Harrison could still have a good game while the Bills defense have a solid game. Again, there's going to be a list that I release on defenses stream for week 1. And there will also be the list of defenses to draft for week 1. So you can go into your draft targeting those specific defenses. So we get an 84 out of 100, but your fantasy football draft grade doesn't mean anything. I love this team. Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson, Devon A. Chan, Marvin Harrison Jr., Nico Collins, Kyle Pitts, Malik Neighbors, and Christian Kirk. Our bench is Jaden Riley Reed, Tajay Spears, Chase Brown, Jacoby Myers, and Donnie Mitchell. Our defense is the Bills, and our kicker is Brandon Aubrey. So let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think about this team. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know down below in the comment section. If I drafted this team, I would be erect doing it. I would be that excited because this team on paper looks great. Shout out Tony the Tiger. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already, hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you money. Hit that like button. If you want my rankings, check them out. Patreon link in the video description. Love you guys. Have a great one. See you guys soon. Goodbye.